I gotta do this take all over again. I don't even remember what I was saying.
Want me to hold it? Let's see if it's okay.
So while we're here having a picnic at the gin house, I thought it would be a good opportunity to go over our camping kitchen setup. So we currently camp out of bins. It's not great, but I feel like as far as our kitchen setup, we have it nailed down pretty well. We've been using this particular setup for a year and a half maybe, and it's worked out really well. So we use these boxes, these tool crates from Home Depot. They're RIDGID brand, and they come in 4 different sizes. We use 3 of them. So we use this small organizer, the medium toolbox, and then there's a crate on the bottom here. They click together, which is super nice. And then they all have locking latches. I think we got the set of these 3 for maybe about $70 or $80. We were looking at using Pelican cases, and just for the small size Pelican case, this is our small size case. For a Pelican case that was this size, it was about $80. So I figured, we'll try this route first, and instead of buying a bunch of $80 Pelican crates, we'll try this and see how it goes. This has been our setup for about a year and a half now, and I feel like we've got it honed pretty well. Works really well for us. So I'll go over through each one and I'll show you kind of how we have it set up. Okay, here we go. So we have a small organizer, this medium organizer, and then there's just a crate that's pretty similar to a milk crate on the bottom. So this top one, we call this one our pantry, and this is where we keep most of our dry goods, small dry goods. It comes with 6 of these organizer bins. We don't use them all, but they're meant to go in the sides here. And let's show you what we have. So we have 2 of the bins we keep filled with condiment packets from fast food chains and such. So here's, and this one, it's the one we probably use most often. So it's ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise. And this one we have hot sauces, soy sauce. There's a number of different types of hot sauces in here. We have some tahini, some Tabasco for eggs, steak seasoning, salt and pepper. We also have bouillon. We're running low. Normally we have a jar of bouillon in here because we use this pretty often for making soups. It's a good go-to when and then we have some clothespins for keeping bags closed. So if we open a bag of chips or a thing of bread or whatever, we can always clamp it closed. So we usually have a few of those in there. This one is hot cocoa. So we have some Mexican hot cocoa, some regular hot cocoa mix, tea bags, peanut butter, syrup. Gotta have syrup when we make pancakes for the boys. There's also our utensils. So this is almost exclusively what we use to eat. These are awesome. So it's a knife, a spoon, and a fork. The knife is kind of superficial, but the spoon and the fork are very useful. I think we got a dozen of these maybe for about $10 on Amazon. Maybe it was like $5. Some Tamarind Drink. We usually have some drink mixes in here, so either Tamarind Drink or Chata, Kool-Aid mix. Sometimes it's hard to get the boys to drink just straight up water, and we want to make sure they're hydrated. So the juice mixes are critical. We also have some, we're running low, but dehydrated mushrooms. This is very good for making soups. Smoked trout, onion. I think this is just applesauce. Usually there's a few of these in here, but again, we're running a little low. I haven't stocked it since our last trip. Let's see, in here we have some Nutella, and then this is where we keep all of our sandwich bags. So we end up making a lot of food on the trail, or we end up making enough food that we find ourselves with a little bit of leftovers here and there. So this is super handy for keeping leftovers fresh. This is all kinds of oatmeal, cream of wheat, canned fish, more canned fish, so canned tuna. I can't remember if I showed the smoked trout that's in here. This stuff is amazing, by the way. And then all the way on the side here we have our camp knife and freezer bags. So that's the pantry. This is probably, out of all the bins, this is the one that we're in and out of non-stop when we're set up at camp. When we have everything packed in the back of the Jeep, we usually make sure that this is on the top and easily accessible, because a lot of times we'll stop and we'll just make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the boys. So it's easy to just grab a spoon to use to spread the peanut butter, grab the peanut butter. Jelly's usually in the cooler, which is easy to get to, and it makes it super easy, super fast to just stop on the side of the trail and whip up lunch quick. Okay. Another good thing about those bins is it holds everything in place for tipping it on its side. So this one is where we keep all of our dishes. And it has this top drawer, has coffee, our coffee maker, or sorry, coffee grinder, coffee, some soap. Actually, the soap is for showers, not for doing dishes. Here's our dish soap, and then a couple rags and a spatula for the skillet. So pull this out. And now we have our dishes. So we always have spray, comes in super handy. This is our cast iron skillet. There's a couple grooves in the back here, and it actually works out perfectly that it slides right in those grooves, holds nice and secure. This is a regular skillet on one side and a grill skillet on the other side. This is pots and bowls. There's 2 bowls inside here, 2 plates, 2 bowls, and then the cooking pot. A couple extra utensils. There is a ladle and another plastic spatula. Then we have a couple bowls of cereal. We're just on a day trip right now, so I didn't really make sure this had everything in it. We usually have a couple full-size plates in here, plastic plates. A couple cups for the boys. They're insulated, so if it's cold and we make them hot cocoa, they stay nice and warm. This is my French press kit. So it's a French press. Inside here is the filter, the depressor, and a coffee cup. And then we have our kettle. We also almost always have 2 emergency packets of ramen in here. If the boys don't eat whatever we've made, and we've already made, whatever soup and noodles that we brought, we can always dig into the ramen noodles. They will always eat ramen noodles. Oh, there's also we usually have a cast iron skillet in here, or sorry, a cast iron pan that is in here upside down. It all fits with the plates and everything. It's, as long as we put it in there in the right order, everything fits perfectly. And it's always nice having the cast iron skillet and the cast iron pan, because sometimes it's easier to cook things on the skillet versus the pan, and every time I've only brought one or the other, it's been slightly more difficult to cook you know, I always run into something where I wish I would have brought the other thing. So we just bring them both. It makes it considerably heavier, but it's worth it. All right, and the bottom. So this crate, as you can see, is it lets airflow through. So this is where we put everything that we know is going to get wet. It's also where we put, it's, you know, similar to a pantry as well. We put a lot of dry goods in here, canned goods. So let's go through it. So we have a couple chamois. I actually use this one for showering or bathing. I use this one for dishes. This is our sponge for dishes. Our wash basin, which is filled with sand right now. And an industrial sprayer. So in order to conserve water, we do all our dishes with almost no water in the basin, and we spray everything. So we spray it, then we get the sponge soapy, we scrub everything, and then we spray again to rinse off. So we can do a full night's worth of dishes with, you know, by just using maybe 5 or 10 ounces of water. Okay, and on the bottom, this is, it kind of varies depending on the trip. So where we were just going, we were the only one bringing a stove. So we threw extra fuel in as well to make sure that we wouldn't run out of fuel. So we have fuel in here, parts of the new stove. We almost always have hash browns in here. These things are incredible. We got these at Costco, and this one thing of hash browns will make a gigantic, that skillet will be completely filled if I were to make this. It makes so much. And then we usually have beans or chili or a few just random canned goods in here. There's a couple emergency things, matches, some space blankets, some bug spray, and a shower pouch. It's getting so hot out here. Oh my God. It's really breezy, but the place that I decided to set this all up and film it is very protected. So I can hear the breeze blowing through all these trees, but none of it is reaching back here. Before we started using these bins, we put all of our kitchen stuff in one big heavy-duty Plano bin. And so we would have food, stove, cooking utensils, tableware, everything all in this big bin. And whenever you needed to find like one spoon or one cup or one can of beans, you had to dig through the whole bin, and it was always a huge hassle. Always meant pulling, you know, half of the stuff out of the bin just to get the one thing that you wanted. And since we started using this, it feels like we're so organized at camp. One of the benefits of the way that we do this, like I said, where we kind of use these as a pantry as well, we always know that it's stocked with stuff. So when it comes to meal planning, especially if we're going to go out for, you know, like a week, we don't necessarily plan our meals. We plan some of the bigger meals that we know we want, but for a lot of lunches and if we, you know, like the first night, if we don't feel like cooking, we know that we're going to have enough to make something super easy. So maybe it's sandwiches, maybe it's soup or noodles or whatever. Just having this constantly stocked with a few core things has made it a lot easier. That's our camp bins. So leave a comment down below if you have any other questions or comments about this, or if you see a way that you think we can improve it, because we're always looking to optimize this particular part, because this is, once we're in camp, this is where we spend most of our time, in these bins. Hopefully this was useful. We've talked to a number of people about these bins, and we've showed a number of people these bins, and I also had a number of people who, once they saw our bins, they went out and bought the same bins. They just work out so well. It makes everything so much more organized. So hopefully you found it valuable. Hopefully, even if you don't use those bins, but you use other bins for kitchens, maybe it gave you some ideas that you can use for changing around the organization of your own bins. I think everybody's done with the lunch break, so I'm going to load the bins back in the Jeep, get the kids in there, get my dad, hit the trail again.